and make more wine.
Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I am Bruce, and yeah, that's a song I used to sing frequently. Sometimes in the car, or when camping, or sometimes in my nightclub act. It used to be fun, but I don't think anyone is particularly thinking about hoping the grapes grow. I think it's more like hoping the grapes don't burn, or I hope my house is still standing. And of course, I'm talking about the wildfires in California, and it's one of the very worst ever. It's already the deadliest in California's history. 30-some and still climbing, and they don't even know what it might go to because hundreds of people are still unaccounted for. Just, the wind shifts and it's coming towards you instead of going away, and that's what's making it difficult. There was a family that, their car caught fire as they were trying to get away. So, terrible situation. And it is the shifting winds. You say, okay, it's going that way. You set up fire breaks and water and fire retardant, but then if the wind shifts, now it goes a different way. And the winds have sometimes picked up and been high winds, which really strokes it long. So anyway, it's nowhere near being over. Houston isn't over Harvey. Florida isn't over Irma. Puerto Rico still isn't over Maria. In fact, most of the island is still without electricity. And there, too, they don't know the death toll because they haven't been able to get to some places. Las Vegas isn't over the shooting. California's fires aren't even past tense yet. It's a good thing our thoughts and prayers aren't tangible. Were they, we'd surely run out. All right, so a couple of weeks ago, I talked a bit about Roy Moore, who a couple of weeks ago had won the Republican primary for the Senate in Alabama, and I showed a clip where he claimed Sharia law was somewhere in Indiana or Illinois, and for the record, it is not. But after the show, I was struck by how limited his thinking is. I don't mean how to parrot. He's got a good memory. He's a former state Supreme Court justice, so he had to be a lawyer, as college and law school, both of which require lots of memorization, case law, precedents. It's a real bear. But to think in the abstract, he proclaims himself a strong Christian, and I take him at his word. Now, even within Christianity, there's division. Some Christians believe it wrong to drink, others to dance. In general, Protestants believe that all you have to do to get to heaven is accept Jesus as your Savior, while Catholics believe it's more what you do. And those are only a few examples. I get that he believes his religion is the right one, the correct one. It's usually the case, isn't it? As a young child, depending on your family's traditions, you might be indoctrinated as a Baptist or a Catholic or a Jew, and then you study the Torah and you believe Jewish tenets. If you do that from the time you first learn to think, when you gain cognizance, of course, it cannot be a surprise that most adults continue to practice the religion they grew up with. But Moore isn't content to practice his. He wants to make it into law. He's called Islam a false religion. No telling what he thinks of Buddhism or Shintoism, but he thinks that it would be wrong if there were Sharia law. That's putting the Islamic law into the civil law. But, so many of the things he advocates, like making homosexuality a crime, is based on his religion driving his lawmaking, which is what Sharia law does. I don't know about this guy. Steve Bannon, interesting. After he left the White House, he went back to Breitbart, and Bannon was for Moore. It's interesting because Bannon's former boss campaigned for Moore's opponent, Luther Strange. Yeah, strange indeed. All right, over a year ago, I had the privilege of attending a talk given by the well-known author, Malcolm Gladwell. And not to rehash what he said that night, but in one of his books, he wrote that what it takes to become expert at something is 10,000 hours of practice. And the idea has been adopted by a lot of people in a lot of different disciplines. And I don't know if I've got my 10,000 hours in or not, but I may be getting close to it. Else, how to explain why when my Cleveland Indians again ended their season by losing their last game and thus being eliminated from further postseason play, didn't hurt so much. It was disappointing, yeah, of course. Would have been nice, but never in my lifetime have the Cleveland Indians won a World Series. So I don't know if it's the hours of practice, of the pain, Maybe it's more akin to pain. You learn to play the guitar and you practice, and in the beginning your fingers get very, very raw, but then eventually they develop calluses. And in my case, I mean, they got like wood. So maybe that's why I'm over the Indians so quickly. And in collaboration, I think, in fairness, the Browns have contributed to that too. Before the season, I said I thought the Browns would surprise, and they have. Although so far, the only one surprised is me. 0 wins. Nada. Not as an excuse, but I did expect the rookie quarterback to not necessarily be an all-star, but I thought he might rise to the level of average. He hasn't. He's ranked last. Number 1 overall pick, defensive end Myles Garrett, didn't even play until last week because of a sprain in his ankle. And he's not all the way back, but on his very first play in the NFL, he sacked the quarterback. You write a script like that. Also, the Browns were without 2 other important defensive starters. So, there's that. Maybe they'll stay healthy. Maybe they'll still surprise. The rookie quarterback has been benched, so we'll see. Be nice to lose the calluses, you know? Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. Or wait, I can let others do it. All right, welcome back. Remember, you can watch all of our previous shows at tinyurl.com/BruceChannel, and you can write to us at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. All right, so I discovered something, and it struck me as bizarre. I can't imagine how this makes any sense. It's sort of like when I flew into Tampa, in August. I caught a connecting flight in Charlotte. Makes sense. I'm in North Carolina, go to Charlotte, go to Tampa. Charlotte's a big hub, but when on the flight to Tampa, I sat next to a guy who also connected in Charlotte, except he flew there from Alabama. It's a long way to go, All right, so here's the thing. I sent a package to a friend in the UK, and I had a tracking number, which I shared with her, and so I watched it. I took it to the post office a little afternoon on October the 3rd. It went to the big sorting facility in Greensboro. The building is several acres. And it arrived there a bit after 11 that night, and it left there 4 the next morning, so there's still nothing unusual. It's in transit. It goes to the regional facility at Miami International Airport. Okay, this makes sense. And then it goes to Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know why I did that. Then it goes to Omaha, Nebraska. Then it goes back to Louisville. She finally got it on the 11th, but what's up with that kind of travel route anyway? All right, so my beverage of choice often depends on the time of day, maybe the weather. Morning, it's coffee, obviously. If it's hot and I've been doing some yard work and the sweat is pouring out, ice cold beer really hits the spot. If it's hot but I'm under an umbrella or near the pool, under an awning, I find it hard to beat a gin and tonic. Out for dinner, I might have a martini before, wine with, coffee after, maybe some sambuca with the coffee. But if it's noon, more often not Bloody Mary. A few years ago, we established a pretty cool tradition. My brother, his good friend, and I would take our old band director out for lunch. Junior high band director. The first year my brother suggested Outback, we went there. I can't tell you how disappointed I was, so after that we picked somewhere else, and we're looking among restaurants near our teacher's home. Longhorn Steakhouse. That's where we've gone ever since, because it's good. Lunchtime, Bloody Mary. I've had Bloody Marys all over the continent, but theirs were the best. And I can't tell you whether or not Longhorn has a standard recipe for all their stores or the franchisee picks their own, but anyway, theirs are the best. And I just want to tell you, I finally equaled it at home. I've tried, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper, tomato, clam juice, all kinds of permutations. But what did it? 2 drops of Texas Pete Chipotle hot sauce. Just gives it a little bit of heat, but there's also just enough. I don't know. It's good. I don't know that you'll like it, but the consensus at our group there was those Bloody Marys are the best.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog. You cry all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. You cry all the time. There you ain't got a holy rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. When I set you high class, well that was just the line. Then I set you high class, well that was just the line. Yeah, you ain't never but a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine.
All right, I saw a film this week that I'd like to recommend. I sort of maybe remember seeing trailers for it when it was out. Vague at best. It's 11 years ago. If I ever did see him, I'd forgotten about it. And I only was reminded because the trailer was on a DVD I'd rented. It looked interesting, so that's how I came to see The Pursuit of Happiness. I'll tell you, it was hard to watch. The pursuit, the travails the character had to go through, being homeless with his young son, working 2 jobs, one of them paying not much, the other not paying much either. Anyway, it stars Will Smith. He's known as a comedic actor, but he's proven he's got serious chops. He certainly did in this. I didn't know until after, when I watched the special features, that not only was it a pretty intense story, it's based on a true story, the true story of Chris Gardner. And I only learned a little bit after that the actor playing his son is his son. All right, it's nothing like Star Wars and James Bond, but there are some good films for adults, and this is one. Oh, 2 other quick notes on films. I've told you I'm the narrator for the feature film Obamaland Part 1, The Rise of the Trumpublicans. Here's an update. No, I haven't seen it, and you haven't seen it. Turns out making a film is a whole lot easier than getting distribution. So, Obamaland Part 1 will screen in Santa Monica on November 5th at the AFM, the American Film Marketplace. It's not a film festival so much as a marketplace. That's where deals are made. So we'll see. Maybe they can get some distribution. Oh, another film. I don't know if it's going to be at AFM, but it strikes me as also having a distribution delay, maybe. So a year ago, I was at a table read for a feature film called Submission. I won't spoil it, but it's about mixed martial arts. I auditioned a second time. I had a callback. And then the day of first shooting was getting nearer, maybe 10 days. I knew I didn't get the role because I would have heard. To confirm, I wrote the casting director. She confirmed someone else was cast, but she was mysterious about it. She said, I'm not at liberty to tell you why you weren't cast, but it wasn't you. You blew everyone away, which is nice to hear, but anyway, I learned why. The role I read for went to in the cast, he's the only person you'd have heard of, Julia's brother, Eric Roberts. And that film hasn't found distribution yet either. One more filmy thing. If you like Stranger Things on Netflix, they've announced it goes up on October 27th. Okay, so I saw this. Maybe you have too. It's worth a revisit if you have. And if you haven't, the setup is this guy's home after a long time away, maybe some years. The dog runs up, barks at him, thinks he's a stranger, and then, well, take a look.
Willie, come here. Come here. What are you doing? Hey, you hush up. Come here.
He don't know you. Look.
You're so skinny, Shane.
You don't know it.
Look at him. He's scared of you.
Come here, Will.
You lost weight, Shane.
Come here, buddy. Smell you, he'll know.
He's like, where you being, Daddy? Where you being?
Look at that. He had to smell it.
What are you doing, bud?
Good job, Jane, where you been? You look
Isn't that cool? You can see the exact moment of recognition because suddenly the tail goes crazy. All right, so last week I told you that this past Friday was No Bra Day, and I don't know how widely celebrated it was around here because after several muggy days with temps in the upper 80s, it got cold and dreary and everyone was wearing jackets. All right, upcoming today, Sunday, Chicken and Cacciatore Day. Tomorrow, take your son's boss's day. Take him an apple. Or don't take him an apple, but tomorrow's also Steve Jobs Day. Tuesday is Wear Something Gaudy Day. Friday is Suspenders Day. Saturday is Apple Day. Well, back to apples. All right. I'm about to begin a book that may or may not be interesting. If it's any good, I will tell you about it. I do read a fair amount, sometimes fiction, sometimes nonfiction. This one is going to be nonfiction. Speaking of books, I'm reminded of what Groucho Marx said about books. He said, outside of a dog, a book is a man's best friend. Inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. All right. I hope that you are outside of the dog, and I also hope that your upcoming week is the best one you've ever had.